Alright. I haven't posted in a while. Just really haven't been feeling it. Anyhow, I think it's funny. You know, I, I'm not picking, just pointing out. A lot of your Jewish people, you know, a lot of them nowadays don't believe Jesus was the Messiah. And I've heard reasons was because the Pharisees had went around after Jesus' resurrection and paid people to say his disciples stole his body to fake the resurrection. One, that's a lot of work. Two, there was guards in front of the stone. Armed guards. Like, I think there's like two or three of them. And when Mary Magdalene and I think it was his mother came to, you know, anoint his body and cover it and oils and that and do the final wrapping of his body and that. And they got to his burial tomb and his body wasn't there. And the gods were asleep and two angels were sitting there and said, "He's not there. The Father has risen." And when Mary Magdalene looked in, she saw the burial shroud. It was folded, and then at near the entrance of the uh, or head of the bench, neatly folded, was the burial cloth, face cloth. It was like a cheesecloth, maybe a little thicker. But what they do is they would place it over the face, right? And then they'd overlay and tie off the burial, the shroud. So it's like cheesecloth shroud. And then they'd tie it here, tie it at the feet, right? Well, the napkin, cheesecloth, whatever you want to call it, was neatly folded at the head of his tomb, on the head of the bench. And when those times, it was symbolism. When the shroud was, or when in the house of a master, when the master was done with his plate at mealtime, when he was done, he'd wipe his face, crumple up the napkin, throw it on the table, indicating, symbolizing he was done. If he wasn't done, he would get up. He would first fold the napkin, place it down neatly, stand up and go walk around, probably to help digest his food, whatnot, before continuing eating. Or if he had to go to the bathroom, whatever. Right? Right. Jesus' napkin, face cloth, like I said, was neatly folded at the head of where they had laid him, the bench or whatever, the cement slab where they laid him. Right? That being said, we'll go on to some other stuff. Also, another thing was the fact that they say he did not come from the bloodline of David. And because, but others say there was the stipulation that because Mary was married or engaged to be married to Joseph, and she did get married to Joseph, that automatically places him in that lineage of David, even though he was the son of God. See, that's the one of the main things people miss out is if you scientists and archaeologists and that have researched back Mary's family lineage all dates back to David, King David, the boy that beat Goliath. And that's where Jesus' bloodline was supposed to come from, which it did. Mary was, technically, she was like a distant third, fourth cousin removed. She was blood related to Joseph, but it was distant enough it didn't genetically interfere with any children they had after Jesus was born. Okay, there's one plot hole, or two plot holes of their little hole punching into the whole thing of, him not being the Messiah. There was a few others, but what they don't ever bring up is the fact that Jesus committed uh, anywhere between 30 to 40 miracles. That healings, uh, natural, like turning water, or walking on water, taking, was it three loaves of bread and two fish, and feeding 5,000 people off of it. You know, and they were legitimate miracles, because how else would they have gotten the fish? The people, they got baskets from people. The baskets were empty. They brought them up, and they watched. It was just nothing else, nobody else. 5,000 witnesses watched Jesus take three loaves of bread, two fishes, and fed 5,000 people. And they were all sitting there. Jesus didn't leave their sight. Nobody brought anything in other than what people had. Where'd the fish and bread, extra fish and bread come from? Or like, oh boy, some of his more bigger ones, more profound. The man that was possessed by the demons, legion of demons, and they begged Christ to put him in the pigs. And at the moment the pigs were infected, the pigs threw themselves off a cliff into the ocean, because they didn't want the demons inside them. So they killed themselves. He went around. People saw him before, people saw him after. You could tell there was a difference. They chained him up, he broke the chains. He cut himself with rocks. Jesus healed him. He drove out those demons, healing him, saving him. All his injuries, everything was gone. And there were strong men that would chain him up, and he'd just break through the chains, throw the guys like they were nothing. All right? And there's a whole town there knew about this guy. They knew he was possessed. Then there was, just his disciples, the 12, but he walked on water. And I'm pretty sure there was witnesses. You don't miss a man heading out onto the ocean walking, or the Sea of Galilee. But he did it. He walked out into the sea. He walked on water. They were out halfway across when the storm kicked up. Jesus was passing by until they called out to him and was going to meet them on the other side, because he told them, I'll meet you over there. And what did he do? He was walking across the water. Called Peter out. Peter walked out, but then he looked down and started to sink. His faith weakened, and so he started to fall into the water, and Jesus saved him. Yes, there's a lot. Let's see, what else did Jesus do? Turn water into wine. And a bunch of servants saw it, but were told to say nothing until later. He resurrected the dead, especially Lazarus, in front of a bunch of people. Pharisees spies come running back. Oh, he raised a dead man. How does one do that? And how? He completed over 300 to 500 prophecies foretelling him. How do you do that? It is scientifically impossible for one man, without divinity, just one mortal man, to accomplish 300, let alone to anywhere between 300 to 500. It's empirically impossible unless he was the Messiah and was having help through God. God was helping him. Or in full context, he was the Son of God. He was God in human form. And they still can't, don't believe it because he didn't complete all the prophecies. Even though all the prophecies are to be fulfilled and finished when he gets back. But, the people are just nitpickers. It's so mind-blowing. They have all this evidence in front of them. Historical facts, witnesses, countless witnesses to Jesus doing all these things, and they cannot accept him as the Messiah, as the Son of God. Literally, he died on the cross, and they stopped sacrifices for paying for sins. They just numerically stopped doing it, all of them. Why? If he wasn't the Messiah, why didn't they continue with the sacrifices and burnt offerings? Because there was no need to, because Jesus died for our sins. He's the Son of God. That portion of humanity needs to accept it. And I think one of the main reasons the Jews won't admit that he was the Messiah, those that say he wasn't, and they're still waiting for their Messiah, is because they don't have the backbone to say they made a mistake and killed the Son of God. Even though it was his destiny, that's what he was put here for, it was his purpose. Even Jesus knew it was his purpose. He did it anyway because he loved us that much. You know, and the fact that they can't accept it, he would go into people's homes. He would treat them better than he treated himself, or to be exact. He'd do stuff that wasn't expected of him. And he said it, and he did it. The Son of Man did not come to be served. He came to serve. And that's what he did. He served. He helped the people. He took care of the people. He showed the people the utmost respect and love, and then he showed them what they were doing was wrong. He didn't strike them down and, scold them like everybody else, which is where so many other religions get it wrong. You don't condemn people for what they do. You come in, you show them love, affection, and kindness, and then you explain kindly, well, the reason this isn't going well for you is because you should be doing it this way, which Jesus did. And that's how Jesus got so many people to follow him and to believe in him. Of course, he was alone when he died, but that was already foretold. He would die alone, pretty much. Only one there, Mary Magdalene, one disciple, and his mother. He foresaw it. He knew it would. They were all afraid. He knew it. He saw it. And he still went through it. He knew everything that was going to happen, and he still did it. He knew they would whip him to the point, basically mutilate him. He knew they would beat him. He knew they would spit on him. They knew they would do all these horrendous, horrific things to him. The most painful things, the most painful death in history. Jesus suffered it. And he knew it was going to happen, and he still did it. If that ain't the showing and proof of true love for humanity, I don't know what is. He knew it was going to happen. He saw it. He probably even pre-felt it, seeing it happen. And he still went through with it. How many people you know are going to get whipped and mutilated by whips and get nailed to a cross and die for you? Nobody that I know of. Think about it.